Hello and welcome to I Am Well podcast. I'm your host Gemma, a nutritionist and a hormonal fasting coach, passionate about self-development through a holistic lens. But my biggest mission is to help empower women and get them to reconnect and trust their bodies again. So if you're a woman who just wants to better herself and live her best life, you're listening to the right podcast. So let's get to it. Hi, and welcome back to I Am Well podcast. Welcome back to Mindset Mondays. Today we have on the amazing Deija. She is a branding and business coach. So she's going to be our Mindset Mondays guest for today. I thought it was perfect because she helps brands in getting their creative identity, figuring out who they are, what their brand is, but she does it in a really intuitive way as well. So I'm really excited to have her on today and teach us all the things. First off, before we get stuck into today's topic, Deja, I thought I would ask you, what is something that has mostly inspired you lately, whether it's in business or in life, something that might have just like sparked some little inspiration for you? And welcome, by the way, too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I feel really grateful and honored for us to have connected and then now to be on the podcast. So thank you so much. So one thing that has inspired me lately, the first thing that came to mind was actually pregnancy. Like this is my first pregnancy. I'm in my third trimester, and it's actually been a big fuel for my fire in what I do, and even to like I feel like there's a whole new passion lit up inside of me, literally from my sacral solar plexus chakras, like are just like lit up right now. And I've got this newfound perception and appreciation too for women and our bodies and what they can really do. Like literally we create life. Like that is wild for me that you can create, like we can create a literal human being from our womb. So that has been really inspiring me in terms of really helping women connect back to their intuition, which is from their womb space, and actually knowing that even if it's not like you're birthing or creating or like getting pregnant and then birthing a child, it could just mean that like you're birthing something into creation. You're birthing a new idea or a project, and a lot of that happens from your womb space. So that's like the one thing that's inspiring me at the moment.
Yes, and congratulations again. I already knew, obviously, but
Thank
um,
you.
very, very exciting. So you're in your third trimester now, aren't you?
Yes, I'm 31 weeks tomorrow and I'm feeling it.
Yes, this is the
Me
time that
too.
you just
Yeah.
all of a sudden you get bigger and bigger. Like this time, so much growth happens. So
Yes,
it
it's
is
wild.
incredible though. You're so right. Like it is when you see someone else pregnant, you think, oh wow, that's amazing. But when you go through it yourself and you're feeling all the feelings inside and you're like, oh my God, like holy shit, what's my body doing? Like I can do this. Like this is incredible. Like so it's
Yes.
very, very cool. And I like how you say connecting for a woman connecting through their intuition and connecting to their womb space. Could you touch on that a little bit more? Like how does this re can how can this really help someone in business?
Mm. Yes, I love this. Well, I think to properly kind of explain it is explaining the journey that I've been on at operating in business previously without really utilizing or intentionally utilizing my own intuition and my own intuitive gifts. So I first started out in business in 2018, and I started out in network marketing as a lot of us probably do. That was my first sort of stepping stone into the business world. I never actually saw myself as a business person. I always thought like business people would are just like people in corporate, like climbing the corporate ladder, and everyone wears suits and it's very professional.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I actually stepped into network marketing, and that was like my first way of looking into the business world and being like, oh, like I can just also be myself. Like,
Mm.
and then that's when I became obsessed with personal branding, because there were so many people who were just copy pasting what their leaders and their upline were doing. And yet weren't actually utilizing who they were. And they thought, like, this was including me too. I thought I needed to be like my leaders, like my upline, in order to have a successful business.
Mm.
Yet I realized that the unique difference was actually within actually building a personal brand. So, after doing all of that and then being given lots of strategies to build a business and lots of tools and resources, and this is how many people you should be messaging and all these things, a very, very masculine approach, very like logical strategy approach. And I just realized I was like forcing things and nothing was really working. And I was getting like, it literally was pushing my goals and what I wanted to achieve away further and further and further. And it wasn't until I started actually tuning in and listening to that little inner voice, or even to like actually dropping into my body and feeling into like the feeling and sensations of what I was being called to step into, that was the moment things started actually shift and things started to actually move and the needle in my business started to move. And even in terms of like jumping on sales calls, and rather than following a specific sales script, I started to actually use my intuition and intuitively ask questions, intuitively get to know them and tune into them and my own intuition to then be able to actually make the sale. And then I remember the first time I did that and I was like, oh my gosh, that was really easy. That person was like, yeah, I'm in, of course. And that was the first time I didn't follow a script and follow anything particular. I wasn't in my head, I was actually in my heart and in my body. So that's kind of like the follow-on effect of where I've been and how I started listening to my own intuition and seeing the results in that. And even more over time, it's just grown stronger and stronger and stronger. However, there has been times where I haven't listened to my intuition, and most of the time, if not all the time, in my personal belief, that your intuition will take you places that logic never could. There's things that like logically haven't made sense, like logical moves in terms of running my first event, 7 months pregnant. Logically, I had all the reasons to be like, that does not make sense. That is silly. That's probably not right timing, all of these things. Yet my intuition was like, no, like now's the time. Now is the time. So that's like an example of that. I personally believe that your intuition will never lead you astray. I still believe there's such power in logic and in strategy. It's just how can we bring both together and utilize them both as like I kind of like viewing like the infinity sign,
Mm.
allow them to weave in together.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was talking to someone else who has come on to the podcast as well about intuition and understanding um, how to connect with it. And I want to ask you and give your perspective as well. How can you tell for someone who's just trying to only just start to connect with it now? How can you tell whether it's your intuition or whether it is that logical aspect of your
Mm.
brain?
Yeah. Firstly, for me, I find it a lot easier. Mine's more of a feeling. Sometimes I get the voice as well, but a lot of the time it's more of a feeling. Your logical mind is very internal, very in your head, and it can be a lot more loud. And whereas I definitely feel that your intuition comes from a really calm place.
Mm.
It's not like, no, we need to do this and this and this. It's like not in the overthinking monkey mind. It's like in the mind, the mind and the body feeling of like this just makes sense. So it's so hard for me to actually explain it in a way, but one thing is like if you're up in your head, it's probably logic, but if you're actually dropped into your body. So even one thing I started to do to help myself to tune in to my intuition was that when I felt myself, I was all up here in my head, I would actually put my hand on my heart, especially when it came to this was when I was in network marketing as well. And I was working on like actually tuning into my intuition rather than just trying to figure out things logically. And I'd tune into my heart space and I'd be like, okay. And then I'd speak, even when I was like sending voice messages or I was writing a post, like I'd put my hand on my heart physically to tune into my body to remind myself to get out of my head.
Mm.
That's how I personally explain it. But yeah, your intuition is not like anxious. It's not like, come on, hurry, like we got to do things like, and it's not forceful. It's very soft and very like calm and neutral.
Yeah, that made sense. And especially when you say like it's an emotional thing too. So I feel like, yeah, that's a really good tip to like putting your hand on your heart. I feel like that's even really good for me. That's what I'm gonna like lean into because there are those times that sometimes you get that nudge to do something, but then you start to also get the fear come in straight away. Like you don't like sometimes have time to like analyze, is this my intuition telling me maybe that's a bad idea? Or so I feel like just that's a really grounding thing to do with what you said. Um, I know you work with a lot of clients and helping them to discover their brand and their identity in business. Is this something that you also like teach with them, like in t tapping into their intuition in business?
Yes, 100%. Because when I work one-on-one with clients, even too, like because I mentor and coach them as we go through the journey too. Because like when I first started, I was mostly just the designer. I was just doing all the designs and then handing it back to people. Yet I realized there was a big gap between a lot of people who I'd literally just give their designs and then they wouldn't actually do anything with it because there was still underlying fears around being seen. There was still like things that needed to be worked through in order to actually start stepping up and step into that brand identity and that version of them and start showing up online in that way. So when we work together in a one-on-one capacity, there's a lot of times where I will have clients be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And what would you do in this? And sometimes I will give like my personal opinion and advice as well. And other times I would actually get them to tune into what they feel, because that's ultimately my intention with working with clients, and especially as a mentor and a coach, and as someone who is helping facilitate people and helping people to really step into their power. It would be a massive disservice if I was just constantly being like, yeah, do this and do that, and then them relying on me to give them all the answers when it's like your answers, like I actually don't have all the answers for you, because a lot of time what worked for me might not actually be your roadmap. So it's actually getting them to tune into them so then they can step into their personal power and trust themselves on a deeper level, which then allows their business to expand at a whole new capacity. So does that answer the
Yeah.
question?
It's so much better than, as you said, just giving them a design, just giving them a brand, even like, just coming up with a vision board or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not enough. You need to be able to trust in yourself and in your intuition. And the fact that you're doing that with your clients is really good because then they're going to be able to walk away and be confident enough to do it themselves. Um,
Yes.
Otherwise, they're always going to feel stuck, like they always need you, which isn't, we're not giving them the confidence back, not empowering them. So I love what you teach. That's amazing. So with your clients that you have had this year, what do you think some of the biggest challenges you've had with them in 2024?
A common theme that I have noticed has been a lot of people pleasing and self-doubt, which
Mm.
I also believe that when you are in business, or yeah, when you are coaching with clients or in working with other people, they're also going to be your mirrors to
Mm.
your own shadows. So I can see how it's like every time that would come up in a client, I'd be like, okay, cool, I need to actually address that within myself as well. Because then when it clears up and it's addressed within me, it will then also be able to transmute and get addressed within them too. So that was like the two main themes, is like people pleasing, which comes from a place of like feeling not good enough. And the shadow side of people pleasing too is actually very selfish, which is interesting because it's like, as the former recovering people pleaser, I would be like, what do you mean? It's not selfish. Like, I'm just want to please everyone. I want to like make everyone happy. Like, what do you mean? Like over giving, yet it's still trying to control someone else's perception of you rather than allowing them to fully see you for you without the people pleaser mask. And
Yeah.
then the self-doubt piece like comes down to the fear of being seen. And that kind of ties in together because I see a lot of people in the online world, and especially like in business and especially the coaching industry, because there's so many different types of coaches. It's very oversaturated, and there's a lot of people who aren't allowing themselves to actually have the audacity to take up space in that industry and be able to actually stand out and be seen, which then, yeah, so this is why I work on the energetic side. I work on clearing any past lives as well, like, because there could be actual past lives that are infiltrating into this lifetime, like whether there's been, like, I personally believe that we are souls that didn't just come here for this one lifetime for 100 years, or if that. I believe that we have the ability that we reincarnate and we have had multiple lifetimes. And sometimes a lot of what has happened in past lifetimes can come into this lifetime. Like, for example, a lot of women who are very intuitive and spiritual, a lot of time were probably a witch in a past life and were burnt at the stake. So that's where I love to bring in the energetic side too and clear up those pieces in order for them to step fully into their power from a place that's not like faking it till you make it, or is not from a place of feeling like a fraud, like you actually genuinely feel in your personal power and your authentic full self. So they're like the main challenges I've seen and witnessed have helped clients through this year, which is interesting too. And also like the identity piece too, shifting into new identities and allowing the part of you that got you here up until now, to allow that part of you to dissolve so you can step into a whole new version of you. Because that is definitely one thing too that has helped me on my business journey in life has been all the identity deaths and rebirths that I've had to experience. Yet, like, this journey, especially in business, the best part about it is like actually who you get to become on the journey. Like, I literally, this is the fastest growing like growth journey I've ever been on, is being in business. Sometimes unintentionally do.
I cannot resonate with what you said. I kept thinking of all these different things that you were saying. But just that last part too, 100%. Like me and myself, like I tell this to everyone when I first started doing I've run a business before, but I ran a partnership with my mum, my sister. But I was like, the first time I actually took the step out and did it myself, oh
Mm.
my God, it's like the fastest personal self-development journey you'll ever be on because yeah, it gets you to, as exactly what you said, have to figure out the identity that you want to become, rebirthing that or becoming that new identity. And I think that's the scariest thing because your body's not used to that identity. So that's why a lot of people do give up or do stop because it's too scary to become someone that you don't even know yet. You haven't even tested the waters. You haven't even been
Yeah.
out yet. So I just, yeah, 100% resonate with that so much. And I really like what you said with clients when you're with them, say like a people pleaser, how you then think of yourself, what you're reflecting back to them. I thought that was really, it's actually something I haven't really heard of much, especially like within coaching, because it's all about you teaching the client.
Yeah.
But when you have a client come to you, that's one way, thinking about how you're acting to them, and because it could be that reflection. I thought that was really, really interesting. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Um, I love this sort of stuff. I was never a spiritual person. Like my history was all like, I never believed in that stuff. I was very like, naysay. And then I like got into this whole self-development journey. It really helped me step into my own. So I really, really, really would love to hear your a bit more on the what you were saying with the past traumas and past um systems that have like happened in someone's life that is then could be affecting how the person they are today. How do you uncover that with a client? Like, how do you even get like to know whether that's a possibility with them?
Yeah, so this is actually something I only have incorporated into my business like at the start of this year.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was working with my coach, Natalie Patterson. She's absolutely incredible. And I ended up attending her practitioner training, which is called Light Codes. And this is essentially like, if you've heard of Reiki, it's like Reiki, but on steroids. And it's a whole healing modality, activation modality. I had my own really profound experiences with it too. And previous, a few months before even going to that event, I activated in light language,
Mm.
which I had heard of before, but I didn't know too much about. Essentially, it's really just like an energetic frequency that can be represented through hand signals. It can be represented through actual speaking it, or it can be represented as well as like an energy. So when I activated in light language, I literally was like, whoa, this is insane. And then even after doing the training too, and that's all around that as well, I even had my own past life experience come up. So on the last day of that event, and when I became qualified in, and I was about to do some light code healings on some of the clients I was working with, as I offered it to them, because I was like, this is something new I've done. I would love to have you there. So I add some testimonials. I'll just gift it to you for free. And the night before I had those booked in, I had a horrible nightmare where I was in like a home. It felt like a coven, like a witch's coven, and I was with like living with all these women, and it felt very like olden days. And I essentially was doing like light codes and doing light language on my sisters in this house, and then was ended up sitting at a table and we're all eating dinner together and we're having wine. And I remember looking at the woman who crossed to me, and she looked at me really like with this evil look. And then I looked beside me, and this other woman who was next to me wouldn't look me in the eye, like almost like guilt. And then I drank from this wine glass, and then I ended up coughing up blood and then died, or woke up
Oh my
from
God.
this dream. And this dream was so vivid. I was like, this can't just be just a dream. Like it couldn't, it literally felt like a repressed memory. So that's when I did my own clearing. And it's interesting because then the next morning I woke up and my throat started to go all funny. I was hardly able to speak. Like I was getting all like this scratchy throat. It's like felt constricted and something was stopping me. And it was like fear in order like to do these healings, and then ended up pushing past that. So that's kind of like a side story. But essentially that light language sound, it can sound like tongues. It sounds doesn't the sounds don't necessarily make sense, yet it's just like a form. It's like a form of light coming through language.
Yeah, and so because you then
Vibration.
found that and that story came to you through that dream, is that like a form of energy then that you have to try and get out? Is that
Yeah,
something?
well, I did my own clearing on it too, which when I activated, I ended up, I was just intuitively sitting there and I was doing this, and I was like, it felt like I was taking stuff out of my throat. And so yeah, then when I that happened too, I did a clearing on my throat as well, where I literally was just here and I was like channeling and clearing and doing whatever. Like I let my body do what it needed to do and let my voice like speak light language in terms of like it was like "Siataro shotoro siamakiana tiala shotoro siatia." And then it like started to clear up. And then I went on to the day and did those light code healings. And um, every single healing I've done has just reconfirmed how powerful it is and how much we are so in the physical, that there's so many things that are beyond what we can really experience from our senses. And like every single client that I've had that I've done a really powerful healing on or activation or cleared something up, they have literally then come back to me and be like, oh my God, Deja, you would never believe like this happened. I just sold this client and haven't sold a client in 6 months. Or like I just did this post and it just went viral. Like there's just little things like that, or even in the sense of like things that have shifted in their own personal lives. I even had one of my clients who I did a session with, and I ended up being like, through this session, I had her grandfather come through, and I was like, this is not relevant to what we've been working on, but your grandfather came through and he had some messages for you. And she started crying and she was like, stop. Like, literally, it's the anniversary of my grandfather's like death today, like his 12-year anniversary today. Yeah, so like just every time, and then that was also too when I was doubting my intuition of like, nah, surely I'm just making this up in my head. My grandfather's not here, like talking to me. Like, what do you mean? And then I said it still and trust my intuition with it. And I was like, of course. And I started crying. It was a whole thing. So yeah, it's so powerful working on those pieces as well as like what we can do in the physical side, because I still love strategy. I love organization. I love the visuals and the physical side. And also I love like the spiritual and energetic side. And I truly do believe if I hadn't brought that in to my business, because it is a part of me, it's a big part of my essence and who I am. Yet for so long I pushed it away because I was like, how would anyone take me seriously if I brought this into my business? Like, this isn't what business is supposed to be. Yet we make it as what it is for us. And I ended up attracting some epic clients and clients who are just like me and were seeking this as well from when I started showing up and using that as my advantage and as my leverage and as my strength and intertwining that as a part of my personal brand.
Mhm. Oh my gosh, when you said about the grandfather, I just got like goosebumps. I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. But I agree because, and I actually do think in business nowadays, they're actually starting to realize that is the missing link to a lot of businesses because you can have all the strategy in the world, but it's not, your mindset as well. Your strength in your mindset is one thing. But I do really feel like that energetics is like a whole other level to helping you with your mindset as well. And it is needed. I know it from myself and even people around me in business. You just see them get burnt out and you just see them struggling to find who they even are anymore or why they even did this anymore because they're just in that hustle culture and they can't breathe. So
Yeah.
that light codes, I have heard of light codes before. There was someone else that has spoken to me and it sounds incredible. I definitely like need to learn more about this. It just sounds so amazing. So so you bring this, you help this with your clients now too. So if that's like just another like tool in your toolbox that you can help with clients.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
That's so incredible. So what else like I know you're about to give birth in the next few months. So I guess what else is then coming up in your world? Are you then going to take a step back and like um be fully present with the mother aspects? Or what's going on with the business?
So it's very interesting too, because I literally, one of my pieces of what I do and what I realized, um, that's so much deeper than just like building a personal brand or helping people with the graphics and mood board and visuals. I realized that I actually help people transform their identities through what I do. So it's just interesting that I'm going through my own identity death and rebirth, of course, like going from maiden to mother. So I'm definitely not like in a sense like being like, all right, I'm just going to close all doors. I'm actually at a point where I am going to give myself some space. So I'm not taking as many clients. I still am working with a few clients up until like end of January. And I do have some other offerings as well that like are just like one-shot offerings, like a VIP day that you can book in and we can have like a full VIP day, map out your entire brand. We go spend time together and we get to like do light codes as well together, like and doing like a full VIP day, which will also be very exclusive. So there's still like mini offerings here and there. It's just I'm not taking on clients that are like long term as I was this year, which are there. I love working with long-term clients because it's just cool watching the journey of like the capacity that we work together over such a extended period of time.
Mhm.
But in terms of going into motherhood, since this is my first, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's going to happen. I actually am just open to what's going to come through. And it could mean that things shift in my business. It could mean I just like come back and I'm like, I'm feel so inspired. I just want to come back in straight away. Or it may be like, okay, I'm going to take some time to be a mama and actually find my feet with this. So it's a bit unknown territory at the moment. However, it doesn't mean like I'm going to stop posting or stop actually offering my services. It's just going to possibly look different.
That's the best way to be. And I like that you're setting such a good example for women in business and mothers to be, because that's a lot of consensus out there with women. They're like, well, I can't start my business because I'm about to have a baby, or I can't, well, my business is going to suffer now because I'm having a baby. There's all those fears that go on, especially for women. And we feel like like, and especially nowadays, a lot of women are holding off on kids because they're saying, well, I really want to focus on my career.
Mm.
So I love that you're actually saying, no, I trust that it's gonna work out. I'm gonna see how I feel, but my business isn't just gonna have to shut down or suffer just because I'm having a baby. Because I felt that um because I was a lot younger when I had my first child, but I did feel like society was always like, oh, well, there goes your life, like it's all about
Yeah.
the baby now, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so I do like that you're saying the complete opposite.
Well, I had those fears as well for a long, long time, and that's where I actually did a lot of healing work on that, specifically this year too. Before I even like fell pregnant, it wasn't actually that intentional that we fell pregnant. Yet we've definitely called it in on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Um, but even too. Like I did a lot of mother wound healing like this year in terms of like the light code sessions I did, the energetic healing sessions. I have also been doing over the past couple years some past life regression stuff around motherhood and like when I've been a mother in past lives. And there's been some prominent ones that have stood out that I've done some clearing around, even in terms of like I used to have dreams where I would wake up and I'd have this baby and be like, I have nothing to give you, I have nothing to provide for you. And like it was like this nightmare, this reoccurring nightmare. And since I've done the healing work on those past lives around motherhood, I haven't had that dream. And I feel so like even becoming into the end of this pregnancy, I feel so much more like, of course. And the timing of with everything, I'm like, this just it makes sense now. Whereas before I was like, I'm not ready, rah, rah, rah. I need to have my business at a certain point. I need to have a certain amount of money in the bank account. Like where it's I believe now, because I'm surrounding myself with other women who are doing big, incredible things with their businesses, with their mission and their mums.
Mm.
And even to like I had a psychic reading with one of my friends who's incredible, and she's the one who predicted that I was going to have a baby a lot sooner than I thought. And I was like, yeah, right. And then literally a couple months later, I was like, I'm pregnant. But I did tell you, I was like, oh God, okay. And yeah, so she even said she's like this all this fear that you have around like not having success in business when you become a mum or not having enough money, because that was the reality for what I witnessed with my mum. So of course that was like a fear that came up, and because it's so prominent in society, but it's like, well, you can only be a mum. Like you have to sacrifice your career, or you go in your career and then you become like not a present mom, you have to put them in daycare. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
I'm not about that here. So, and yeah, she was just like, you're going to make the most amount of money in motherhood and it's part of your mission. Like, of course, you're going to like be able to build an incredible business and that may look different. However, like motherhood is actually interconnected with your mission. So, of course, it makes sense that you're going to be able to do both.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just been like it's like a whole belief rewiring, expressing the fears and then clearing it. Like, so yeah, I'm like literally I'm like I think that's why I ran those two events too. I'm like, I'm here to break through the bullshit that we've been told that we can't do this and we can't do that because we're pregnant or that we're going to become moms or that we are moms. Like, nah, I'm not here for it. Here to change the narrative.
Yeah. So many women are going to resonate with that, especially like I'm a mum myself of two kids. So I know a lot of women in business that have kids as well. And yeah, it is like well, your kids are going to suffer now because you've got a business and you're not going to focus on. I'm like, no, I am doing both and I can do it and I'm proving that I can do it. So yeah, and I think the light codes thing is going to help you massively with it. It sounds like, I mean, it's already helping your clients figure out
Yeah.
their own identities and branding in business. It's just a massive game changer. So that is incredible. If someone's listening and they did want to possibly reach out to you or get in touch with you, how's the best way to do that?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram. It's Deja at
I'll
Deja
put
the designer at Deja the designer.
yeah,
Pop in the show notes.
yeah,
So
perfect.
you feel free, like have a look. I've got my link up there that you can have a look at all the offerings that I have. Otherwise, if you want to chat, if you just want to know like what are some other ways to work with me one-on-one, currently, then just send me a DM. My messages are always open. So I'd love to chat with you, even if it's just to be like, hey, like this is what I love from this podcast, or I really took this away from it. I always loved receiving messages like that. So that's
Yeah.
the best way to reach me is on Instagram.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I'll leave the links in the show notes below so anyone can get in touch. And if anyone does want to reach out to Deja, just let her know what you thought. I know I learned a lot, so I know you're going to learn a lot. And yeah, I just love what you're teaching, what you're doing. And I can't wait to watch your journey as you step into motherhood now. Like, it's going to
Thank
be
you.
incredible. I just know, I mean, you've already had the psychic reading, so we all know that some big things are going to happen for you. Yeah, this next journey is amazing. Like having kids, it's exactly what you're saying, that death and rebirth. It's like another version that happens.
Yeah.
You go through all the different things. And at each age, like my kids are now 5 and 3, and every time they go up a new age, I feel like I'm then having my own death and rebirth of my own identity again because they teach me so much. So
Mm,
very excited
yeah.
for you. So
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I'll have to, when I do have more guests on my podcast next year, I have to get you on as well, my podcast.
uh, if you want to reach out, just follow those links in the show notes. Otherwise, I will talk to you all in the next episode. So thanks, guys.